Hello NFL fans, welcome to NFL Picks with Dave. Today we're going to predict each of the NFC teams' records for the 2020 season. Let's start with the NFC East, where the Cowboys, the Eagles, the Giants, and the Redskins reside. The Giants hired Joe Judge as their new head coach during this offseason. This will be Judge's first time as a head coach during his career. He was an assistant coach for the New England Patriots from 2012 to 2019. The Giants also have Daniel Jones, a young QB who's going into his second year in the NFL. Since the Giants have a rookie coach and a young QB, I'm going to predict that they're going to have a 6-10 record, which is good for 4th place in the NFC East. Our next team is the Washington NFL team, formerly known as the Redskins. The team, like the Giants, hired a new coach during the offseason. They hired Ron Rivera, who was the longtime coach of the Carolina Panthers from 2011 to 2019. The team last year had a disastrous season, posting a record of 3-13 and being winless against their NFC East foes. I think that they'll have a better year because Rivera is experienced and they have a young QB. My predicted record is 8-8, and that'll be good for 3rd place in the division. Why? Because your QB needs to improve and grow. Also, this is Rivera's first year as coach, and usually the first year is slow for new coaches. The next team is the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles last year won their division, only to lose to the Seahawks in the wild card round of the playoffs. They had a 9-7 record and had a so-so season. They would have been in 3rd or last place had their division been more competitive like the NFC West. Still, they had a winning season. I feel they may improve slightly and have a record of 10-6 because Doug Peterson is a good coach and Carson Wentz is a pretty good quarterback. Our last NFC East team is the Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys last year had an 8-8 record and missed the playoffs. Because of this, Jason Garrett was let go and they brought in Mike McCarthy as Garrett's replacement. I believe that the Cowboys will bounce back and have a record of 11-5, which is good for 1st place in the East. Let's now go south to the NFC South, where the Panthers, Falcons, Buccaneers, and Saints reside. The Panthers last year had a horrible season with a record of 5-11. They fired Ron Rivera and let Cam Newton leave in free agency. They got a new coach and a new QB. I think they'll improve a little. I'm going to give them a record of 7-9, which is good for last place because of their new coach and quarterback. The next team is the Atlanta Falcons. Last year they had a 7-9 record. However, they had a strong finish after starting 1-7. They went 6-2 in the second half of the season. During the offseason, they acquired Todd Gurley from LA. However, I think the season may be an average season for Atlanta because Matt Ryan is getting older and in the past few seasons have been slumps. Because they acquired Gurley, I'm going to give them a 9-7 record, which is good for 3rd place. The next team is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Last year, the Bucs had a 7-9 record and missed the playoffs once again. During the offseason, Tampa Bay was able to lure longtime Patriots quarterback Tom Brady after he chose to enter free agency. The Bucs also got Rob Gronkowski, Brady's favorite target, to come out of retirement and join the team. Because of these weapons, I'm going to give them a 10-6 record, which is good for 2nd place and possibly a wildcard spot in the playoffs. While the Bucs may have a better offense, I don't think Brady and Gronk are going to be as successful as they were in New England because they have a different coach and a franchise that's not very good. But I think that they will still propel this team to the playoffs. The last NFC South team is the New Orleans Saints. Last year, the Saints had a 13-3 record and won the division for the 3rd consecutive season. Sadly, their season ended like the one before, a missed pass interference penalty. During this offseason, they re-signed Drew Brees to a 2-year contract, and they also signed former Broncos and 49ers wide receiver Emmanuel Sanders to a 2-year contract. With Sanders on the team, Brees may be more dangerous this season, and this could help the Saints remain dominant in their division. I predict the Saints will once again win their division and have a record of 12-4. Let's now go north to the freezing NFC North, where the Packers, Vikings, Bears, and Lions roam. The Lions had a terrible season last year with a record of 3-12-1. They missed the playoffs once again and were dead last in their division. They made some adjustments to their defense, though. They signed former Falcons cornerback Desmond Trufant to a 2-year contract. they signed some other defensive players and signed former Bears quarterback Chase Daniel, which will possibly be Matthew Stafford's backup. I feel like they will improve slightly, but I predict that they will miss the playoffs again and will have a record of 5-11, which is good for 4th place in the division. The next team is the Minnesota Vikings. Last year they had a 10-6 record and were the number 6 seed in the playoffs. They defeated the Saints in a controversial wildcard game. However, their season ended in the divisional round, where they lost to the 49ers in Santa Clara. This offseason hasn't been a very good one. They lost Stephon Diggs, Xavier Rhodes, Everson Griffin, and some other key defensive players. I feel like that they may have a more down season this year due to their key losses and will have a 9-7 record, which is good for 3rd place in the North. Our next NFC North team is the Chicago Bears. Last season, they had a disappointing season with a record of 8-8 and missed the playoffs. During this offseason, the team signed former Saints, Seahawks, and Packers tight end Jimmy Graham. They also signed Nick Foles, who could rival current Bears QB, Mr. Trubisky, for the starting position. I feel like Foles is the better QB because he led the Eagles to Super Bowl 52 and helped them win it. Also, he's more experienced and I feel like he's more accurate than Trubisky is. I feel like the Bears may improve a little bit and will have a record of 10-6. Our last NFC North team is the Green Bay Packers. Last year they had a 13-3 record and regained their division crown after missing the playoffs for 2 consecutive seasons. They were the number 2 seed and defeated the Seahawks in the divisional round. Unfortunately, the Packers lost to the 49ers the following week in the NFC Championship game. During the offseason, the Packers signed Devin Funchess, Cardis Lewis, and 2 other defensive players. During the first round of the draft, they picked Jordan Love, a quarterback who could potentially be the successor to Aaron Rodgers. We'll see how he does in the upcoming season. I feel like the Packers won't be as successful as they were a year ago. They'll have an 11-5 record, which is good for 1st place in the North. Let's now go west to our last division, the NFC West, where the Rams, Seahawks, and 49ers and Cardinals compete in. I feel like this is going to be the toughest division this season because all of them have good quarterbacks and pretty good offenses. First team was the Los Angeles Rams. The Rams last year had a 9-7 record and missed the playoffs for the first time in 3 years. They struggled and lost many key games which could have helped them advance to the playoffs. During this offseason, they lost Todd Gurley, Clay Matthews, Greg Zuerlein, Dante Fowler, Eric Weddle, and 2 other key defensive players. This could be disastrous for them since they're going to have to compete in a challenging division. I predict that they're going to have an 8-8 record, which is good for last place in the West. The next team is the Arizona Cardinals. Last year they had a disappointing season with a record of 5-10-1. However, I think that this season is going to be much better because Kyler Murray will likely improve, and they made some big moves like signing DeAndre Hopkins, and they also improved their O-line. I'm going to give them a 10-6 record, which is good for 3rd place in the division. The next Western team is the Seattle Seahawks. Last year they had a pretty good year despite not being very good in their home stadium. They had an 11-5 record and made it to the playoffs for the consecutive season. They defeated the Eagles in the wildcard round. Unfortunately, they lost in the divisional round to the Packers. During this offseason, they signed Greg Olsen to a 1-year contract. He also signed Carlos Hyde. They also re-signed Bruce Irvin, a former Panther who was once a Seahawk. The offseason also brought some losses to the team. They lost George Fant, Jadeveon Clowney, Justin Britt, and DJ Fluker. They also made little noise in the defense. Because of this, I'm going to give them an 11-5 record, which is good for 2nd place in the NFC West. Our last team in the NFC West is the San Francisco 49ers. Last year, they had a 13-3 record, won their division, and went all the way to Super Bowl 54, where they lost to the Kansas City Chiefs. During the offseason, they re-signed Eric Armstead, Jimmy Ward, and Ronald Blair. However, they lost Emmanuel Sanders, longtime offensive tackle Joe Staley retired, and they also lost DeForest Buckner. However, I think they still have a pretty good defense and a good offense led by a good quarterback. I don't think that this season will be as good as last year, but I'm going to give them a 12-4 record, which is good for 1st place in the NFC West. That does it for today's episode. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to get the latest videos and posts I do. Also, follow me on Twitter and Facebook for the latest news and updates about this channel. Next week, I'm going to predict the AFC team's record and see which one made the most noise this offseason. Thanks again for watching, and remember to practice social distancing and to stay home when you're sick. Thanks for staying safe, and hope to see you again next week.